this has been brought to you by the folks at One Voice Central Texas. If you're not familiar with One Voice, it's a collective organization of about 100 different civic organizations, along with all of the Asian Chamber, the Black Chamber, the Hispanic Chamber, the LGBT Chamber, and the Young Chamber. So we wanted to also let you know that tonight is being brought to you by Phil Prazen. We'll be moderating tonight's debate from KXAN. Phil is, don't hold it against him, he's a Nebraska boy, but he did go to UT. He is an Emmy-nominated reporter as well as a winner of the Peabody Award for the work that he has done over the last few years in his career in news. So I don't want to take up a whole lot of time. I want to thank you and thanks to Patton Elementary for hosting tonight's forum as well. I'm going to turn it over to Phil so we can get right into the questions. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. And just one, before we start, want to thank again to all the sponsors who made this night possible. One Voice Central Texas, the Greater Austin Chamber, the LGBT Chamber, Austin Asian Chamber, Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber, Austin Black Chamber, and Austin Young Chamber. Let's give them a round of applause for making this possible. And we are live streaming this via Facebook, so welcome to everybody who is watching on Facebook, and thank you to all the candidates for joining us tonight. Really quick, we'll go over the ground rules. We're going to start with 2-minute opening statements for everybody, and then we will have prepared questions to begin with. There will be 2-minute answers. If I deem a rebuttal is necessary, you'll have 1 minute for a rebuttal. When it comes to the time, when you are 30 seconds away from using up all your time, you will see this yellow card come up in the back. When you are out of time, you will hear this ding, and you will also see this red card. It will be pretty obvious that you are out of time, and please be respectful to the other candidates and stop. So with that, and then for the audience, we are taking questions from the audience after our prepared questions. We're taking those via Slido. So if you all should have gotten information in the handout to send questions our way, and we will get started here with intros. So we'll start with Mr. Frank Ward, 2-minute intro, introducing yourself.
Thanks very much, Phil, and thanks to everyone who's hosting this and to everyone who's here tonight. I'm glad to be up here with my fellow contestants. And in all seriousness, I think we should just take a moment to acknowledge that the process of running for office is not something to be taken lightly, and everybody up here has given a lot to be here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity, and just want to say I have a lot of respect for anybody who endeavors to get into public office. So as for me, my name's Frank Ward, and my wife and I have been here in Austin since 2009, and we were really brought to this city with a great love of Texas, and Austin just appealed to us from the very beginning. And the bottom line is this: we love this town, but we also think that we're on a path that is not sustainable. When you look at where property taxes are, in the last 5 years, the average property tax bill has gone up over $1,300. When you look at population growth, it's 26%, but over a 10-year period, from 2006 to 2016, our tax burden went up well beyond that. And at the end of the day, if we really want this city to be diverse, if we really want it to be weird and wonderful, we're going to have to make it affordable. And right now, it's not. And so for me, I look at this and say, it's not the province of government to make this work, it's the province of the people to make it work. And so when you have the average Austinite spending 47 hours of their life in the car every year, just toiling in traffic, or those in Oak Hill who spend a combined 454,000 hours just sitting at the Y, when you look at the regulatory burden on homeowners and business owners who don't feel like they have the opportunity to do what they want to do and can't grow in the ways they want to grow, be it as homeowners or business, I'm fighting for them and for public safety as well. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for being here. My name is Bobby Levinsky. As a 3-time council aide and a longtime community activist, I have over a decade of experience pushing progressive policies at Austin City Hall. I started in 2005. I am proud to have been endorsed by community leaders such as County Commissioners Jeff Trevelyan and Bridget Shea, including council members Leslie Poole and Mayor Pro Tem Kathy Tovo. and groups such as the Austin Central Labor Council and the city's employee union, AFSCME. These are people that I've been honored to work alongside for over a decade to solve our community-wide concerns for Southwest Austin and all of Austin. Over the years, I've helped shift millions of dollars to help workforce training programs and social service contracts so we can address the urgent needs for our residents. And because our state has failed to meet the needs of our school districts, I've helped prioritize resources for joint programs between AISD and the city, such as parent support specialists and after-school programs and pre-K programs. Currently, I'm an environmental attorney. I have fought every day to conserve and preserve our natural resources down here in Southwest Austin. And I have worked to protect our neighborhoods down here from overdevelopment that just clogs our roadways. During the Oak Hill neighborhood plan process, when I was a policy advisor with Councilmember Morrison, I was working hard to adopt the neighborhood's vision within that neighborhood planning process. And I have been a longtime ally of the Fix 290 Coalition, working to promote a context-sensitive solution for the Y that will help get traffic moving quicker and less expensive too. This campaign is about addressing the needs of our families. As our city grows, so does our need for infrastructure. Whether it's just completing a sidewalk so our kids have a safe route to school, or making an intersection improvement so we just shave a few minutes off our daily commutes. I think our council has a responsibility to each one of its residents to make life a little bit easier and a little less stressful. So again, my name's Bobby Levinsky. I look forward to speaking with you tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to be here as well. My name is Paige Ellis, and I am a marketing and public involvement specialist for an environmental group here in town that works on transportation and housing projects. So I have seen at the ground level that we can both manage our growth and advance our transportation and housing initiatives in a way that is productive and smart. I first learned the values of hard work from my parents. I watched them growing up. My mom is a retired public school teacher, and my dad worked the night shift at the local hospital. So my family is full of public servants, and I have been very proud to look up to them my entire life, and look forward to being a public servant myself. I am a donor to the Barton Springs Conservancy, the Zilker Botanical Garden, and the Trail Foundation, and I have been a volunteer organizer for Keep Austin Beautiful and the Texas Book Festival. So I've put a lot of effort into civic engagement and trying to really take care of the community that I'm so proud to call home. I've been in Southwest Austin since 2011, and I just absolutely love it here. You can find out more about me, pageforoustin.org, and also on Facebook. Thanks.
Great. And thank you, everybody. It is great to see so many friends in the audience and be here in our community. My name is Rich DePalma, and I'm running for City Council for Southwest Austin District 8. One of the things I want to let you know about why this is so special is because out of about 14 forums we have across the city, there's only 2 that are here in Southwest Austin. So I appreciate you taking the time being here. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have close to 17 years working with the public sector, doing research and business case development. And then I'm running specifically here in Southwest Austin to represent our families and our seniors, specifically to improve the affordability, the transportation, public safety, and making sure that Southwest Austin receives its fair share of resources. I have lived in Southwest Austin, specifically District 8, for almost 12 years, frankly longer than all the candidates combined. And over those 12 years, I've worked on a number of issues across the community, and spent thousands of hours on behalf of our community, serving as our co-founding Friends of Dick Nichols Park, serving as Vice President of Oak Hill Association Neighborhoods, where we addressed issues relating to the Oak Hill Y, as well as make sure that we had smart development, and then serving as Vice Chair of the Parks and Recreation Department, where I've advocated for additional pool here in Southwest Austin, among bringing recycling to parks and a number of other issues. Most recently, I completed, having served on the AISD Facilities and Bond Planning Advisory Committee. This is about a 2,000-hour endeavor, making sure that our AISD facilities met the needs of our community. And in doing so, we were able to bring the most amount of money for Southwest Austin since Bowie was created in 1986, built in 1988. So I'm honored that my support reflects the political diversity of this community. About 60% of my support we qualify or classify themselves as Democrat and 40% as Republican. And that's actually something very special to me. Appreciate your support. Rich DePalma, thank you.
All right, so we'll take the next 35 minutes and answer prepared questions, and you have about 10 minutes to take questions from the audience. Remember, you get 2 minutes to answer each question. If you talk smack about somebody, they get a minute to talk back. So the first question we will begin with is about transportation. Transportation is the second highest family cost. When it's difficult to move freely around Austin, access to services and economic opportunities are limited. Time spent commuting leaves less room for family obligations and socializing, and Austin becomes a more frustrating place. What would be the immediate first actions you would champion as a city council member to address the crisis? We will start with Mr. Levinsky.
Sure, that's actually something that I'm working on right now. I'm working with a group of people to get the city council and the Travis County commissioners engaged on an environmental study for the parkway concept for US 290 at the Y, because if we are able to do some more simple solutions than what was proposed, the six lane highway with six service roads, that's going to take years and years and years for us to build. There's a better solution out there that's cheaper and more effective, and we can do it now, as long as we prioritize it and get the city and county to engage on it. TxDOT has not been that receptive over the years, but we do need to get traffic moving at the Y. Additionally, I'd like to really focus on infrastructure, intersections, there's a lot that we can do, such as at William Cannon, to just smooth out the exit there, to make it to where, that's where a lot of our traffic is backing up. You exit, you stop, and it backs up all the way to the lake. I've actually been overhead in a helicopter looking at the traffic, and you can see where those congestion points are. It doesn't take much for us to be able to just smooth that out if we just focus on it. Too much of our money just goes to these really large infrastructure projects that take years to build, and we just sit in traffic as traffic gets marginally better. I think that there's better ways to do that if we engage with our regional transportation partners at Campo. That's another issue that is something that we've been working on. Campo right now is dominated by our suburbs. We've negotiated away the city's control at a regional level. That's something that if we use our authority at the city, and then the fact that we pay for all of Campo staff as the city of Austin, we can actually get our better representation at that level. Thank you.
The first thing I would want to do is talk to TxDOT and CTRMA about the southern portion of MOPAC. I know that since the managed lane has gone in the north part of MOPAC, now everything just log jams right on top of Lady Bird Lake, and it's creating a separation in Southwest Austin where you have to add that time into your commute or figure out if you're taking another thoroughfare to try to get to other parts of the city. So I think I'm not alone in sitting in traffic in Southwest Austin, and I would definitely look at the southern portion of MOPAC to see what we can do to keep people moving. I think it's environmentally irresponsible for everybody to just be sitting in traffic, polluting the air, and eventually polluting the water with the situations we have going on here. So that's the first thing I would look at.
So similar to, I got a number of different things on here. So one, we're going to fix 1826. Go ahead and expand that. It's in our on our Campo plan right now to go to a 4-lane, which is 2 each way. And so that's what the first priority, make sure we use that. Keep our eye on the South MOPAC expansion project or toll road project that's already existing. That's actually at the feds right now for environmental impact report. So that will come back in early February of next year. And so be implementing that project so we can get the relief that we need on South MOPAC. I love the discussions on the Oak Hill Parkway project, and that's why, as Vice President of Oak Hill Association of Neighborhoods, we worked with all the various neighborhoods to find the commonalities. Not to kill the project, but find out what was good and to promote that. Our president of Oak Hill Association Neighborhood, Daryl Pruitt, is here in the audience, and worked with him on making sure that we had brought that information forward, and as a result, in our Plan A that's come forward to the community, the effort of the community is what's being reflected in that plan. Now, there's some things I'd like to see, and I've been working, and I have the support of many of the Fix 290 coalitions to actually do some improvements, particularly removing the toll lane, which is still there, although it's supposed to be a non-toll road. So if we can do that, we can have something a little bit more manageable, a little less expensive like we've been talking about. But that dialogue is continuing, it's still going on. I've been meeting with TxDOT regularly over the last year, and I look forward to just the impact it's going to have on our community. William Cannon, that was brought up as well, and so that's going to be part of the South MOPAC study. And so when we make those improvements to South MOPAC, William Cannon will be part of it. I pushed the 2016 Transportation Mobility Bond, where I actually served on the Finance Committee, to make sure we had funding for Southwest Austin. This is one of the projects that I wanted, and it came back saying we're going to address this in South MOPAC. The vision I have for that specific project going southbound is a dual exit lane, staggered. If you're going southbound and you're going to go and make, well, plenty more, but thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil. So I think a lot of it starts with just meeting people where they are. As you know, many of us live in Southwest Austin. In my case, I work downtown. I've seen how car lanes have been turned into bus lanes. Bike lanes have overtaken more and more space for cars. The fact is, I think we need an all-of-the-above solution. Those things are important, but roughly 90% of Austin commuters get around by car, and especially if you have a family and you need to get kids to school or get them to events, you've got to be realistic about how you're going to get them there. And so I think, as Paige pointed out, and I agree, just having people sitting in traffic and polluting the air and potentially the water is no solution. So I think we need to widen our roadways. We've got a lot of potential to do that. I also think that while toll roads are not something that I'm a particularly big fan of, it is a market solution. And the fact is, if we didn't have them right now, with the MOPAC expansion, we would probably be looking at even more of a grind. So I think we just need to be innovative, and there's smart city solutions. If we were just to adjust our traffic light signaling and have things in sync, we could probably cut the time that people wait by 4 to 8%. That doesn't sound like much, but it adds up. So I think it's just a matter, too, of not focusing only on what's happening in Southwest Austin, but what's happening across the city. Even 360 isn't a full circle, and it just seems like a city of ladders, and we need to find smarter ways to get people going on the roadways that we have. So, thank you.
Thank you, and just a reminder for the audience, we are taking questions via Slido using hashtag COA District 8, and there's a sign over here that has information on how to submit questions. So we'll go to the next topic, which is taxes. In a recent poll, residents of Austin cited rising property taxes as a major issue they face. Iconic businesses are having to close their doors, and longtime residents are moving out, citing rising property taxes. Some have also cited homelessness as an impediment to business. Do you support a budget at the effective tax rate so home and business owners continue to benefit from the growth dividend and pay the same amount in property taxes as in the previous fiscal year? And Paige Ellis, we'll start with you.
I would need to look a bit more into that. I'm not too familiar with that exact line item, but affordability and taxes is a huge problem here in Austin. And what a lot of people don't take into account is that homeowners see that as a separate line item on their bill, and renters are also footing the bill as well. So I know we're feeling it all the way around as business owners and as renters and as owners, and unfortunately it comes down to mismanagement at the state level and education financing. And so they've put us in a really tough spot. I do look forward to looking at creative solutions to make sure we relieve pressure on everybody. And there's also ways to do tax swaps between the county and the city sales tax to make sure that we can keep as much as possible right here at home in Austin. Since we're working so hard to make our lives better, I think we deserve to keep a little bit of that more right here with us in Austin, as opposed to sending it up to the state and then it doesn't come back to us, and it puts us in a crunch for education and other resources. So I would definitely want to look into that.
Mr. De Palma?
Great, thank you. So taxes are too high, and we all feel it. When we see that tax bill come in, it's frustrating, and you're trying to figure out how am I going to meet that demand. When you look actually at the tax bill, though, and I'll answer the actual question too, but I want to make sure we talk about Robin Hood and recapture. We spend more money on recapture to the state than our entire city of Austin property tax, period. 20% of your property tax goes to the city of Austin. Last year, 22% of your property tax went to the state as far as recapture. It's covered in the AISD, so when you look at AISD and you get that tax bill, or your Eaton's ISD for our friends who are visiting us from Lost Creek and those other neighborhoods up north, that's really where we're feeling so much of it, and that's actually what's impacting so many of our commercial districts. But having said that, our tax rate has continued to grow. We do have that rule of 72. Rule of 72, we will double our taxes. If we were at that 7% for 9 years, we will have doubled our taxes. We need the ability to address that. So our effective tax rate, I love it starting at the effective tax rate when we have the when we have a budget discussion, but we can't be limited to the effective tax rate, because although I love the economies of scale that we think that we can get from growing as a city, that's infrastructure that we still need. And so we can't limit it ourselves based upon that overall growth that we're seeing to our actual budget from the previous year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I think many good points have already been made, but I would start with how City Hall addresses the budget year over year. The fact is, we are getting taxed into oblivion. Property tax is a massive, massive burden on so many people. 68% of Southwest Austin residents are homeowners. And the fact is, we've got, on population growth alone, $50 million in new tax revenue coming in every year, be it on sales tax and other forms of tax. Why on earth we continue to raise the effective tax rate and, again, burden more and more people with projects and other initiatives that we may or may not need is beyond me. We have the opportunity for a citywide audit. We have the opportunity to get our house in order. I think there is no doubt that when you look at Robin Hood and you look at the way the state redirects dollars, the fact that nearly 50 cents on every dollar that you're giving toward what you hope is AISD is actually going to other school districts across the state. Totally understand why that exists. It's a matter of equity. But we need to figure that out. And by figure it out, I mean we need somebody to be an advocate, not just here at the city level, but on our behalf at the state level. And I will be that person to go up to the Capitol and to work with legislators to try to get that fixed. Bottom line, there is no reason why people who want to be here, who own their homes, are getting to a point where essentially it's like having an adjustable rate mortgage. Your taxes are going up so much that you can't afford to stay. It really undermines our ability as a city to be as diverse and as creative and as dynamic as we can be, and I'm going to fix it. Thanks.
I definitely agree that the effective rate should be the starting point of the conversations. I think it's kind of fiscally irresponsible for anybody to make a commitment to set the tax rate before they know what the actual financial forecast is. I have been working on city budgets. I've worked on, I think, 7 city budgets over the years, and I've been behind the scenes working to balance that city budget. Some of those years are not so great years, and it's hard to say what that effective tax rate should be until we get an assessment of our needs. That said, I agree with the comments about the Robin Hood discussions, but at a time when our property taxes are increasing at such a rapid rate, and our rents too, the City Council still does have a responsibility to be more fiscally prudent, and that's something that I actually agree that we have not done a great job with being fiscally prudent. If you look at the Budget Stability Reserve Fund, every single year, especially with the current council, we've rated that down with one-time cost down to just the bare minimum for what our financial policies should be. That's something a practice that we need to stop, because if you look at how we were able to reduce the water rates this last year, it's because we built up that Stability Reserve Fund and we were able to stabilize our rates. Also, I think that we need to have a conversation about reducing our reliance on regressive flat rate fees for utility bills, because that disproportionately impacts people that are on the lower end in addition to everybody else. And then I think that we also need to get involved in more long-range budget planning. Too often are we having these conversations about these urgent council priorities, and we need to let them know that you've got a couple years to fund that. Let's just set a plan and let's look at further into the future, so that way we're not having to take the most liberal stance on our financial policies. So thank you.
Thank you. This next question is about community. Austin has experienced growth, but some people have been left behind. What is your vision for the city's role in funding and supporting the nonprofit network that provide much-needed social services? What is your plan for addressing disparities and inequities in our community? We'll start with Rich.
Appreciate that, and that's kind of at the meat of why I'm running for city council. I mean, and it's really reflective of our community. So in Southwest Austin, we are very fortunate that we are viewed as a very affluent community. But it's hiding a secret truth, and we have seniors who are isolated in their homes that when we knock on doors, they answer and they haven't seen anybody for a long time. We have folks who have mobile home parks right along 71, public and conventional public housing units along 71 and 290. And these are the folks who have been neglected because when you look at District 8 overall, it paints a very rosy picture. And so determining on what that equity actually looks like, on the AISD Facilities and Bond Planning Advisory Committee, I looked at equity, did the analysis of are we getting more than our fair share? And we have to have that exact same methodology looking across every single district through every various indicator. Then we'll have to prioritize and advocate for our own communities. For me, our seniors is a major issue in the needs for our seniors that I'm willing to go to battle for, particularly the need for senior communities, senior centers. This is something I'm seeing in a major way. We have one pool here in Southwest Austin. We have a small library in Southwest Austin. We have no rec center or senior center. So equity has to be looked at a much broader lens. But it doesn't mean that we don't look for those who also have socioeconomic needs across the district or across the city as a whole. So when we look at Dove Springs right now, one of the propositions on the ballot is for a community health center in Dove Springs. I support that project because they don't have the ability to have access, or they don't have access to medical services in deep Southeast Austin. So it's really a reflection when we do our budget, it's a reflection of our community values, but it's also what the realization, what we can actually afford, and making sure that it's not the rhetoric that goes forward, but actually based upon data has clear policy initiatives that are driven. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, again, I'm a big believer that there are already many different entities that can address this, and it starts with the individual. I think, and I'm sure I don't speak for myself, but for everyone here, volunteerism, getting out, doing things in our community to help people in need, that's a defining feature of Austin. And from my vantage point, when I think about what our church does for people in need, when I think about the various nonprofits that we have in the city that are doing phenomenal work, even when you look at one of the sponsors for tonight's event, this idea of one voice. The fact is, Rich is right, there are people that are neglected and overlooked, and we need to do a better job of reaching them. But again, I don't think, while it's important to have a safety net of some kind, and it is important for us to recognize the needs of those that are most vulnerable, I think, again, it starts with how our city is operated to begin with. We are driving people into affordability challenges. We are creating poverty by basically not taking an effective short look or long look at how we budget. There's a giving heart in this city, but the way we budget and the way that we tax doesn't benefit anyone, be it at the lower rungs or up, and I think we really need to address that. And so for me, I'm a big believer in letting the people handle a lot of those challenges, but government also needs to be smart. And even when you look at this bond issue, if we really want to fix affordable housing, do you know what the cost would be? It'd be about $6.3 billion. That's the kind of bond we need, and that's completely unrealistic. But if we gave money back to property owners, to homeowners, and gave business owners a break, and I say a break, but really it's just the opportunity to function, we'd be in a better place and it'd benefit everybody. Thanks.
So the way I view things is that the measure of our success is actually you start with the people with the fewest resources among us, and that's something that drives everything that I think about. To me, it goes back to data-based planning for our budget. We have to be looking at our community dashboard with CAN to see what our needs are in the community, what's been effective, where can we invest some more resources into with some community partners. Our joint subcommittees between the City Council and Travis County and AISD is totally underutilized. It used to be a little bit more of an effective resource where we could coordinate our efforts to make sure that we're addressing the needs within our community. We are getting better with viewing things through an equity lens, which I think is really important. But we also need to make sure that we are working with those community partners so that way we're propping people up. Workforce training programs are something that's really important to me, and that's something that we've really tried to shift some money into over the years, because if we can give people opportunities for success, then maybe they won't need to be relying on social services, and we can get them before it gets there in the first place. But I think we have to recognize that the way that our system is designed it's designed for people to fail. I mean, we have a system where it's a consequence of our market that we have people on the lower end, and we have to be able to address that, because if we don't address it, we end up paying the cost down the road anyway. And that's something that we have to acknowledge, we have to prioritize. Preventative care helps save us money. Thank you.
This is a really important question, and I'm glad that you asked it. I know that here in Southwest Austin, we sometimes do feel kind of lucky, but I've been out in this district knocking on doors a lot. If you follow my Facebook page, you will see that there are faces in this audience tonight. I have knocked on your door, and you've seen me out there. What's important to know about Southwest Austin is that there are people who feel forgotten, and we not only need to look at the services being provided in Austin, but making sure that they make their way all the way to Southwest Austin. We do actually have a high population of homeless, and a lot of the homeless care services are spent in District 9 because that's where the largest portion is, but we do have people who spend the night on the Greenbelt because that's the safest place for them. So there are services that are lacking and money that's not quite coming to Southwest Austin that I want to advocate for. We do need to take care of our seniors and make sure they can live in affordable and connected environments to get to and from their appointments. We need healthcare services to be available for them in their neighborhood. And there's also a number of other city resources, including we need a fire station, we need more fire stations, and we need to make sure that our police department is not overburdened with mental health calls so that they can just make sure that they're protecting the community they're sworn to protect. So there's kind of a rebalance that needs to happen here and make sure that Southwest Austin is getting its fair share. And we can also look to partner with other organizations like Community First and to try to help partner with other nonprofits and make sure that we have the services available in Southwest Austin that are needed. Thanks.
All right, the next topic is regulations. Local businesses, both large and small, are faced with a myriad of regulatory requirements, increased costs to do business, higher city fees, a tight labor market making it difficult for them to compete or even stay open. What would you do to help protect small businesses in Austin who are struggling to make it, and what are some policies that you disagree with that are already in place? Start with Frank.
Thank you. Well, let's again start with homeownership and the burden that's placed on residents here and elsewhere. According to the National Home Builders Association, regulations imposed by government account for nearly 25% of the final sales price on a single-family home. Think about that for a moment. And think about this. When you look at the building of a single-family home and what it takes to permit it in Austin, it's 18 months. Go up the road to Georgetown, it's 181 days. That's absurd. And the fact is, we impose so many needless regulations and burdens. Take the sick leave policy, for instance. I'm sure it'll be an unpopular view when you hear my view versus everyone else's up here, but we have a private sector, we have a public sector, we have a market that can provide for that. To impose burdens on people that may not be able to afford to stay open for that, I'm totally in favor of having a sick leave policy, but it cannot be government imposing that on business. It's just not something that a lot of small businesses can handle. And if they can handle it, that's wonderful, and it should be self-selecting, and you should have that choice as a prospective employer or employee. But at the end of the day, if we continue to impose these kinds of burdens on the citizens of the city, we're not going to be the richly diverse and wonderful city that we are, or at least we're not going to fulfill our potential. And I know we can do better. And again, I'm a big supporter of this audit initiative because we need to see how we're spending our money before we can go forward. We need to see where the waste is. We need to see where we could be better utilizing our resources. And I think that will help us get a better handle on how we tax and how we regulate, and frankly, give everybody a better chance to succeed here. Thanks.
So for this issue for me, part of it, I do think that it is simplifying the code and simplifying the permitting process. So that's something that I've kind of had experience on multiple sides of this. I've been at the policy level. I've been a real estate attorney in the outside. I've also been an environmental attorney tracking the progress of projects. And continually, we do have very long delays in our permitting process. It's an area that we have a lot of room for improvement. I'll give an example for something I was doing kind of on the attorney side. I was helping a small business expand their business. They literally already had a permitted business in a shopping center. They bought the lease next door so they could expand it, and it took 3 months to resolve a conflict between 3 different city departments on the number of bathrooms that were required. That's something that should be pretty straightforward and something you really shouldn't even have to look up in the code to know, how many bathrooms would be required for your expansion. We did restore the project manager model at the city, which was important, and I think it has improved some of the process, but we didn't empower those project managers to make decisions to resolve those conflicts. That's something I think that could be done almost instantaneously, and it would help a lot as we move forward. Another thing that I've seen, particularly like with environmental reviewers, where they have a tenure of about 2 years within the department, and they lose a lot of their institutional knowledge because they feel forced to job hop between departments, and they lose that institutional knowledge within the department. So they don't know what the standards are, they don't know what decisions have been made, and we have to retrain everybody. If we create paths to success for those reviewers, we can actually help them grow within their position and get promoted from within. I think that would also improve it. And then I know I'm almost out of time, but I think we also need to be investing in small businesses through our economic incentive programs, such as retaining those businesses, especially, and helping them grow. So I'm out. Thank you.
I have had a fortunate experience of working for a small woman-owned business here in Austin, and I think it's incredible that we have taken initiative to try to look for marginalized communities, especially women, minorities, disabled veterans, certain portions of the community that weren't getting enough of the work. They're there, they've put their business together, they're ready to work hard, they're smart, and they're just not getting contracts. So I have seen firsthand how it is beneficial to be able to utilize some of these incentives. Also, I know that we need we need a faster permitting process. Things are getting hung up, not because they're not going to get a permit, but they just can't get through the system quick enough. We also need more building inspectors because time is money, and once something is permitted and we know that it's safe to build and it's being built responsibly, we need to support those types of endeavors and just get them done. Like so much of the stuff going on right now is a matter of stalling, and it's just completely unnecessary. So we need to have more people pushing permits through, more people able to inspect buildings, and more people who can do code enforcement to make sure we know when things are at risk of being out of code, and try to give them the resources that they need so that they can keep their businesses open and they can keep their housing developments open too.
All great points, and it's not going to be a shock that for permitting, I think we're all in agreement. What's happening over at Development Services right now and how long it takes to have a project permitted, everybody should be at arms. When you look at Zilker Cafe, so serving on the Parks Board, Zilker Cafe, it's closed in December 2015. We are in late 2018 and we still haven't started construction on fixing the issues over at Zilker Cafe. And the reason is it's because in the process in which, pardon me, in which departments work together. So the fact that we haven't gone out for that construction is directly tied for the permitting. Nash Hernandez was a building that was supposed to be able to utilize for APD officers. That's been lost because of how slow it's actually taken in order to get the permitting. This is all within interdepartmental. I can't believe it. And when you look at it, it's not just because we're a large city. It's because of how Austin is doing business specifically with permitting. But when we talk about regulations, that's absolutely the clearest point of interest. And so we need to consolidate the permitting for the various departments under one shop, make sure we have enough permitting staff, but then also coupled with a clear code in how things are done. It shouldn't require a permit to replace the front door of your house. And that's just another example. So but then having said that, there's a lot of things also on code that I think are important. When we talk about code enforcement, when it's tied to substantive issues, we need to keep those. When it's tied to lesser issues, then we have to actually resolve and say, do we need to actually still be permitting that sort of work? And I would answer no in that specific case. When requirements on regulation, what we require from the business community to actually do contracting with the city of Austin is another burden. This is something that's not comparative to our other municipalities across the city. Thank you. Across the state.
This is our last prepared question, then we're going to go to a couple from the audience. But this last question is about housing. Council adopted the Strategic Housing Blueprint last year, calling for 13,500 new units annually over 10 years. This gets us to break even in terms of need. Would you support amending the city's proposed strategic housing plan to increase the number to at least 15,000 housing units per year for 10 years? As you know, the city unsuccessfully tried to change the code this year with Code Next. What do you believe needs to be done differently to achieve a better code? Will you support working to revise the land development code to provide and allow for predictability and deep affordability? Start with Bobby.
Love that question. So I don't agree to any particular number for the strategic housing plan because I think it needs to be needs-based and data-based. That's not, the current number in the plan is actually based on a 5-county region, not the 1 county of Travis County. So I think that number was actually closer to 85,000. I also think that there's been a lot of conversation about increasing entitlements as a way to increase housing, but that's not necessarily how it's done. There's a lot of other things that are involved within the development process that are impeding the amount of units that are built, so that would be the permitting process, which we just talked about. But it also includes something as simple as making sure we have the labor force to support it. I'm hearing from people that are developers that say we would be building more right now if we had the labor force to support it. So I think that we do need to be revising our land development code. I'm not against amendments to the land development code. We do need to be doing that, and we need to just do it in a smarter way. Code Next was 1,500 pages, and they were asking, do you support it or do you reject it? All at once. And we can do that better by addressing it section by section, amendment by amendment, and truly analyzing the impacts of it. One of the amendments that was suggested by the Planning Commission was waive all code so long as the developer can get 90% of his entitlements. So that would include our critical water quality features. It would include, they exempted out trees, but not all trees. So, I mean, we have other community values that we need to consider when we're talking about growth, and we need to have just a more informed conversation. It's not just about goal setting. We do need to track that, but let's just have a more collective conversation on it.
I would support increasing that number. I would really want to look very closely to make sure it's the correct number, but I don't believe that trying to just break even is really where we are at as a city. We have been dealing with this idea for so long of don't build things and they won't come, and that's not working. We're all feeling it. It's creating affordability problems, it's creating traffic congestion, it's making us all miserable. So I do want to increase that number, and as far as looking at the land development code moving forward, We need to increase density along transit corridors. I think that's something we're all in agreement on as a city. And we need to be looking at missing middle housing like duplexes and other creative solutions that might be kind of mixed use that we've seen across the globe, and they work well and they have a nice charm to them. And I think that's where we can really advance as a city to provide the number of houses that we need to be providing, and also to maintain what makes Austin so lovable and weird.
Thank you. And so, looked at this issue, and I'm very appreciative of this, the work that went into the strategic housing blueprint. And I think it's pretty much, the recommendations by the chamber is right on. When we look at the growth rate, and what we're talking about, how do we get to the 135,000 units that's actually listed in the strategic blueprint, it is using the percentage of growth on the 5 counties, but it's applied to the city of Austin. So I'm comfortable with that. And when you look at where our overall availability and how much, I did a quick analysis of the market research over the last decade. And so we actually get affordability when we have about a 10% vacancy rate. And so how do we get to that 10% vacancy rate? And this is on multifamilies, 10%, we're at 5.6 vacancy rate right now. Retail, goal is 4.5%, we're at 3.85% vacancy rate. Office market, 10%, again, another goal, we're at 8.1 vacancy rate. So when we look about affordability, it's how do we get to those numbers and creating the additional housing stock? I think if we go to the 150,000, it gets us there. But I think we can use as that goal, where are we meeting right now to get to that 10%? Where are we next? And so we can go track that and see what that metric plays out on creating that affordability that we're so desperately wanting. And relating to the land development code, I was really frustrated. When I served on the ASD Facilities and Bond Planning Advisory Committee, it was a process. And during that process, it's gross when you see how the sausage gets made. We didn't finish making the sausage on the land development code. We said, oh, that doesn't look good, we're going to go ahead and pull it. Really needed to go to a draft forward to make sure we got the work done. There was a lot of work that still needed to be done for sure, but I think we pulled it too quick. So we need it to make sure we have the diverse housing that we desperately need across the city, particularly when I think of senior housing. We need it for our activator transit corridors, and we need it for one of the things I was really excited about was the beneficial use component.
Thank you. So over the last decade, Austin has seen the largest per unit home price increase in the country, 63%. Housing prices have jumped almost 40%, and what has wage growth been? 2.5%. So it's obviously not keeping up. And yeah, absolutely. We know that more and more people are coming here every day. You hear various figures. The one I've heard that seems pretty reliable is you have about 140 people coming in per day, but you also have 30 people who are leaving every day. And I'll tell you why. It's because they can't afford to be here anymore, or because traffic has gotten to a point where it just affects the livability quotient. And when you look at where we are, Code Next could have helped to solve a lot of that. And it was a classic Austin play. Let's spend $8 million as a city and get nothing for it. And we just cannot tolerate that kind of waste any longer. The bottom line is people want to be here. If they wanted to be in Houston or Dallas, they'd probably be there, but they don't want to be. They want to be here. And this is, we're all running because we love this city. I think we can agree on that, certainly. And the bottom line is we need to do more to get at these problems. It shouldn't just be, let's treat the symptoms, let's treat the disease. We've got to stop over-regulating, we've got to stop overtaxing, we've got to stop putting a burden on all of us who live here. And we'll get into this in a moment, but when you talk about public safety, let's take care of our first responders. You've got people who can't even afford to live here. They are charged with and put their lives on the line to protect us, to defend us, to serve us, and they can't even afford to live here. So let's get creative about how we're going to take care of the people who take care of us. Thanks.
And now we have about 6 minutes left. We'll take questions from the audience, and the first one is a quick answer. It's just, how long have you lived in District 8? We'll start with Paige.
Since 2011, so 7+ years.
Going on 12 years in October.
Since 2015.
Most recently, 13 months.
Right. And then Another question from the audience is about public safety. Public safety is roughly 70% of the budget. How will you support safety and all other city needs? We'll start with Rich.
So it really goes on that forecast, and a lot of what we talked about is having that strategic plan based upon anticipated revenue and make sure it's tracking to existing work that's already been done. So in 2016, we had the Matrix Consulting Report that actually talked about what the APD's needs are. We know what the needs for AFD, and so we build a program that growth into our existing forecast. And absolutely, one of the things we've heard is the important work that public safety is doing for us in the city of Austin. And right now, they're not being supported, whether it's a four-man crew on a fire truck, or if it's having enough officers where they're able to actually take the break and get the training that they need, that the community is saying we demand you of, but then they're not allowing them to be able to get off their schedule to do that specific training. And then, of course, we have EMS as well that have the exact same issues. So we need to be smarter about it, have that specific plan. That should be the priority. Everything else then feeds from that.
Thank you. So a few things. Our police right now, APD, don't have a contract. They're operating without a contract and have been for months. And this is one of the safest big cities in America. And we've got great people and people who treat each other kindly and with respect. But let me tell you, if you don't have a robust law enforcement behind you, watching after you, protecting your neighborhoods, that doesn't last. APD is losing 10 to 11 officers every month. We need to be growing our police force, not reducing it. For that matter, when I went out a few weeks ago, I was out all Saturday night, did a ride out with the APD down in David's sector in Southwest Austin. You can't imagine the things that go on, even in our own neck of the woods, things that you don't have to worry about because our police officers are taking care of it. You've got people who deserve to be paid what's called incentive pay, but it really isn't an incentive. It's more of a recognition of service. People are out all night long working a 10-hour shift, and right now they're getting paid the exact same thing that anybody on any shift would be getting paid. We've got to recognize the sacrifice and the valor, and we're not doing that right now. And at the end of the day, I think we all can say, I as a husband and as a father, I want my home, my neighborhood, our entire district, our entire city to be kept safe, and we've got people that are doing that. And with our fire department, the same. I plan to go out soon and do a ride out with them. I want to see what they're experiencing, what their challenges are. I don't think we're doing enough of that. And we need to get out there and recognize the sacrifice that's being made. And our public servants do a lot, but our first responders are some of our most important public servants, and we're not giving them enough credit for the jobs they're doing.
So the failure of the police contract was a failure of the current council to have dialogue. There were 11 different voices giving 11 different directions when this contract was ongoing. I've been at City Hall throughout very successful meet and confer processes, and this one was one of the worst ones that we've ever seen. The police need to have a contract. We need to have a police contract that focuses on retention, focuses on training, and focuses on recruitment. Those are the three cores of having a quality police force, and it's something that we've had in this community for many years, and we're actually have less oversight now without a police contract, and we have officers that are taking thousands of dollars a month hits on their budgets without the stipends that we ask them to take because their community values for us. It's something as simple as mental health training. They've done the training, but now they're no longer getting paid for the training that they committed to. That's going to be the first priority for this council in January, and I think that we all have a fairly similar perspective on this, but, and I could give all sorts of platitudes about how much I love the police, but it's really about getting down to the nitty-gritty and getting a conversation going of a dialogue between the council members, and that's something that I've done for years, and I can do it again.
Absolutely. I think we need to be taking care of our public safety officers. We have found ourselves in a situation where we don't have a police contract. We're lacking fire stations. EMS is understaffed, and I don't think that reflects our values for the city of Austin. I think it's really important to look at all of the services combined, maybe look at where we can handle some of the other city services with nonprofit organizations to take the stress off of people, because we are seeing a situation where it may be a mental health call and a police officer shows up, and it's not fair to them to have to deal with a situation that could have been addressed in some other way. So I think we really need to look at all the services that need to be provided and make sure that we are taking really proactive, concerted effort to make sure that we're covering things that are maybe less dangerous, like trash and recycling and compost, and looking at how we can do that so that we do have the money available for public safety.
All right, one last pitch to this crowd right here. 1 minute closing statements.
Well, again, my name is Frank Ward, and I'll tell you why I'm running for Austin City Council in District 8. It's because I'm a husband, I'm a father, I work in a small business that I'm helping to grow. I want to see this city thrive, and at the rate we're going, we're not going to meet our potential. We're not going to be the weird and wonderful place that we have been known to be for so long. It is time for Austin to take a big step forward. We need to not just be a fun place, but a place that's serious, a place that garners the attention and the respect of the world. And when you look at home tax or property taxes going up on a rate of doubling every 9 to 10 years, when you look at people sitting in traffic and not being able to get home to have dinner with their families, when you look at people that can't afford to make a change at home or to expand their businesses, and when you look at our public officials, you look at our public servants, you look at our our men in blue and our folks that need to be taken care of, we need to do a better job of that, and I promise to do that. Thanks.
So again, my name is Bobby Levinsky. I'm running on experience. I am the candidate who's actually had the on-the-job training. I've been a policy advisor for 3 different city council members, Councilmember Laura Morrison, Mayor Pro Tem Kathy Tovo, and I date as far back as Councilmember Jennifer Kim. I will work hard to expand our basic services in Southwest Austin, such as improved fire protection and more parkland, and I will work to reduce the mounting financial burdens on our homeowners, renters, and small businesses. I know what it takes to get this done, and I will do it for you. My website is bobbyforaustin.com, and I would really encourage anybody that wants to talk to me more just to reach out to me and let's have some coffee. Thank you.
And just to wrap up, I am Paige Ellis, Paige for Austin. I've been working with Endangered Species Act, Clean Water Act, and National Environmental Policy Act projects for transportation and housing. So I think I have a very unique approach and experience to be bringing to City Council. I think it's important that District 8 has a representative of the people and not a City Hall insider who is only going to work with connections already inside City Hall, but someone who really wants to hear from you and really wants to work for you. We need to encourage growth where it's appropriate, while protecting the environment, and my public involvement experience has led me to really be a firm believer in civic engagement. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all being here again. Rich DePalma, love your support. And I'm running just because I'm so protective of our community, and this comes from a decade's worth of work already in your behalf. Been the appointment of 2 mayors and 1 school board president. I have worked for cities across the United States, including New York City, City of Boston, City of Pittsburgh, Accenture, and as far as corporations. And this is all about how we improve how business is done within that particular entity. So doing the program evaluations and then doing the implementations. So I'm passionate about Southwest Austin. I want to bring that decade's worth of work that I've been already doing fighting for the community. I know our community, I know our folks, and I know what our needs are. And so if you count on me and have my back, I will make sure I have your back. I'm honored to have the support of the folks who are elected here in Southwest Austin that cover us, so that's Sheriff Hernandez, Constable Stacy Sweets, Trustee Cindy Anderson, and ACC Trustee Julianne Nietzsche. They're supporting me because they know I know the community and I have the community's back. Thank you.
We have 4 great candidates here, and let's give them one round of applause to end the night. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to our sponsors, and thank you for showing up.